Hey guys, hope you can hear me. Let's talk about phones, dependencies on phones. In fact, too much dependencies on phones, right? So I've got a phone here, I can tell you, right? This is an Android phone, okay? And I'm recording on my iPhone. I've got two for specific reasons, right? And I'll talk about that. I don't encourage people to have two phones, but I'll talk about that. Again, we have a problem with phones, right? It's becoming a problem, a pandemic. Now, people don't know. Governments don't know this. Banks don't know this. A lot of people don't know it's a problem, but it is a problem. It's a monopoly. We know about AI and everyone can see AI coming from a distance. We're all complaining and nervous about it. But how about phones, right? Got a notification that's come through there as well. You know, we're all relying on it. So who am I? I'm the CEO of Orukka. Orukka is a smart payment ring, right? It allows you tap to pay. We do fitness as well. We do bracelets. Actually, I've got a bracelet payment here, which I wear. This is a payment bracelet, right? You can just tap to pay. Also for businesses. If you're a business owner, you don't need your POS box terminal anymore. You could just tap to pay with this. I want to talk about phones because, again, phones is not just a tool anymore, right? Let's talk about the issue, right? So, in fact, I think there's something called, I kid you not, it's a word, check it out, phobia, right? Nomophobia. And what it does then, if you don't have your phone, you start to panic, right? You feel lost or empty without it, right? So you see a lot of people, they just walk on the street and go this way, because they're looking for their phones. Not even their wallets, but their phones. So the phones have got like a chokehold on us. It's not a psychological issue that we don't realize. And we need to stop that, right? And not just, again, we do payment rings so that you don't need your phones to make payments. Aura started very well. Aura and Whoop, they did the whole health ring as well, where you can just walk around with health on your fingertips so you don't have to rely on phones and Apple for, counting your steps and all that, which they tried, right? In fact, those things don't even have screens. So while people talk about screen addiction, right, it shows that we're not really addicted to screens as much as we think, It's a bit of a rant before I get into work today, right? Because obviously I've got customers to deal with, right? But, people ask me why I'm doing this, right? I'm doing this, again, people think I'm competing with Aura or with Whoop. No. I'm competing with phones. Phones are my competitors because the stronghold is crazy, right? We've talked about the psychological impact, right? In fact, sleep is affecting our sleep, right? So the psychology side of things as well, where we're all nervous without our phones, we feel empty without our phones. That's just a device, by the way, that's controlled by people, two private companies in specific, right? And we have a third one coming up now across China, which are, the feature phones. But those things are not addictive. And the feature phones, you just have a phone, gives you a phone call. If you want to do payment on that, it's the simplest thing possible. We are working with a few providers actually with our ring and those phones. Right, we can just make payments easily. Our rings also work with Apple Pay, Google Pay, so there's nothing on that. But my point is just we're so obsessed with phones, right? It's a problem, right? And the chokehold is crazy. There was a joke the other day, which I think if you look at, there's a hoop on our finger here. There's a hole here, right? So you see that hole there? People argue that it's because we hold our phones for too long. I don't know if that's true, but check it out. If you have a look here, right? Check it out. Make sure it was there before phones were invented, right? If your granddad or grandmom has it, then you're fine. If not, then I think it's because we just hold our phones too long, because this is how we hold our phones, right? And there's that look there. I don't know. It's a conspiracy out there. But the point I'm trying to make, guys, is that, the chokehold that phones have is crazy. And it's not just enough. So people watching this, right, are possibly, like individuals, okay? I want to tell you the problem with governments and banks. So again, I've got 20 years working in banks, experience working in banks. And I can tell you what we did, right? When we have an idea, the first thing we do is get a phone. I put it on an app, right? I've got an Android phone. Yeah, I don't even know how many apps I have here, but everything that comes has to be an app, right? We're talking to a few governments the other day. Governments themselves, the first thing they think about is an app. So it's an obsession that we don't even realize. Do you need an app? In the UK, there was a whole fight around digital ID, right? Because the problem with digital ID, and I'm talking to the UK government on this, by the way, I hope they listen, but the problem with digital ID wasn't the fact that it's control, right? And it's not any other digital country, right, where they're trying to go digital on the ID side of things. It's not because of control. People argue it's control, but the argument is actually on the phone. Like, you shouldn't be tracking people's phones, right? But Apple already track you. Google already track you on your phone. So the government adding to it is what made everyone get nervous, right? But I hope people start to realize that these things are being tracked, right? And they get concerned, okay? And they try and stop it or reduce the dependencies on it, right? So Apple, I can tell you, in terms of their sales, just, selling 100 million, to try and upgrade every year, even though it's the same box, right? I'm going to put on this thumbnail, I think I might have shown, just the progression over the last 7 years. The phones are exactly the same. But yet people are buying and upgrading and upgrading. And I like the fact that people are now stopping the upgrades, right? It's now reduced because you have to think, do you need this upgrade? Oh, then don't do it, right? Then let's find out how a $1,000 phone can last for 2 to 3 years, right? Because it should. If it does, I mean, I've got my laptop here. I've been using it for 4 to 5 years. No problem with it. But how come your phone after 2 years, it dies, it slows down? So people start to look at it. And people are helpless about this, right? Because our mentality is there. If your mentality is there already, as soon as you have a digital ID, the first you want to do is get an app. And I had to argue with government. We've got a whole white paper that we're preparing on this with governments to say, you should not put digital IDs on phones because it's a private device, right? The other point as well, I think if you see me on LinkedIn, I'm always active on this as well. You had a few banks that came up and they were all complaining and took Apple to court for monopolizing. They were like, oh, you're monopolizing us because we can't reach out to our customers. Couldn't believe it. And I was like, well, why? What are you talking about? Like literally, you have access to your customers, but instead of talking to your customers, you then put your relationship with your customer on a device, on a phone, and then you're angry that you can't reach your customers. Why do you have it on the phone? People are going to argue that, okay, it's easier because you have all the customers on the phone. Then get other ways. Get a ring. That's why we invented rings, devices. Like there are a lot of devices out there that reduce dependencies on phones. Get branches. Don't try to be cheap. I've seen like Apple, not Apple, this is Jamie Dimon that came up with a beautiful, beautiful office in New York for staff that they didn't even want. Instead of doing that, why don't you get more branches across the world? Instead of getting like a huge, tall skyscraper for customers, for staff that they're not crying for. No staff has ever complained, oh God, I wish my office was nicer. But customers want to see you. So get more branches, right? Same thing as well, governments. Get IDs. Like IDs are already there today. You've got passports, you've got driving licenses, you've got permits, resident permits where you can check if they're there. So you're already controlling citizens enough that way. But the next point, wait for this as well, you've got taxes as well. You control citizens coming in and out based on taxes. In fact, someone doesn't pay taxes, you can tell. If you go into some countries, you also have your NI number, your PPS number, your insurance number, where you pay into a health benefit. That's tracked as well, based on your ID. Your ID, they can track all that. So the next one now becomes, oh yeah, I want to put it on the phone. You have to ask you why, just to make the phone much more important. Like you're making it more important than it should be, right? That's a problem. And it's becoming a problem again. The younger the population, the worse it is. Because if you look at Gen Z today, Gen Z, we have the highest dependency on phones. I think I'm a millennial, not a Gen Z, right? But millennials and Gen Z, we've got really high dependencies on phones. If they don't have it, that's a problem, right? They almost treat it like oxygen. I mean, I know this for a fact because you have your pillows. I mean, I'll tell you by the way. So you've got your pillows, and then the next thing you have to have a phone beside you, right? And then you have your alarm clock. Previously, you used to have alarm clocks, right? But now you have, like, your phone is now your alarm clock. Or then your phone now is actually how you drive. Your phone is how you make payments, right? And then by 4 p.m., the phone battery is dead. Then you're stuck, right? Then you have to take a power bank with you to make sure the phone is charged. So it's just how crazy dependency is, right? And I don't want to look like I'm just bashing Apple, right? So they're huge in terms of Android as well. So Android and Apple are about the same. They're both guilty on this, right? Because Apple, believe it or not, Apple have a huge market share, about 60% in the UK, EU, and developed countries. Android has a 70% global share. So that means every Android device around the world, if you calculate it, I mean, look at places like China, Africa, in terms of the numbers. So Asia, sorry. So let's say Asia, Africa. Those are two huge markets that Android controls, right? And then what happens then is iPhone then controls, North America, South America a little bit, Europe, Australia. So most of the continents. So between two of them, they control most of the continent. And then what we do is we continue to give power and more power to them, right? Again, it's just a bit of a rant, and I'm going to keep ranting about this, right? Until we stop this, right? And then my idea is, please, guys, let's reduce our dependencies on phones. Yeah, go get a Whoop. If you don't have a Whoop, go get a Whoop band. If you want to keep health, go get an Aura. If you want to do payments, get Orukka, right? And just get a wearable. Just get one wearable and use a wearable, right? And just move on away and don't rely on these boxes anymore. It's time to stop these rectangular boxes, right? Reduce dependencies on it, right? Because it's just, again, like I said, it's a box that should have been a phone, okay? It was good for social media, okay? It remains strongly used for social media. So I can tell you right now, most users on the phone, about 80% of the consumption of your phone will be on social media. So it's usually, Facebook, LinkedIn, which is social media, Reddit, social media, TikTok, social media. I think they have something they use in China, which I think it's called Red Brick or something like that. There's a lot of social medias out there. There's groups, there's boards. All those are social medias which you can And here's a trick: you can have them on your laptop. Yeah, so you can have them because what happens then if you log on only on your laptop, then that reduces the consumption rate you have on that. Okay, so I have to get to work now. I've got customers to feed to get in touch with. I've got rings to ship. Again, we're in 50 countries, by the way. We're working with about 350 banks. So order Orukka now, okay? And it's simple, right? Because you just wear it again, and that's it. There's no charge on these things. There's no battery required, so the battery is not going to run out. All you do is just put it on, and then you tap to pay. If you're a business owner, don't need walking around with those POS boxes anymore. Again, those are old, right? Those are last year. Soft POS, same thing, is still relying on your phone. I know that's the next thing. So it shows you how crazy banks are. So I was talking to a bank the other day, right? And they said to me, oh, we've got a revolution that you're going to like this. And they wanted my feedback on it, right? I consulted a few banks. And then they said to me, hey, what do you think about this? So I said, hey, so you guys have moved from this box. If you're a business owner, think about this, right? There was a till, which was a cash registry. And then they moved from here to here, which was a box. And now you're moving to another box. This is a revolution, by the way. They're moving here. I'm like, what are you moving there? What's the revolution there? Because now you've moved from this box that you could control to this box that you cannot control. Why don't you get a ring, right? So we're working with them there. I can tell you there are a few banks that we're talking to and that we're going to launch with. So you can buy from us or you can wait and get it with your bank. The bank will be cheaper because they don't pay subsidized price for that. But what that does is that helps because then you can get your money direct into your bank, which is very good in my opinion. I think it's very good. I think it's the future because you can then carry your business with you, right? Same thing as well. You can carry your bank with you to just start to pay wherever you are. So that's it for me. I'm going to stop now and get to work, right? Without ranting too much. I'll tell you what, please guys, be careful of phones. Try and reduce your dependencies on phones, okay? It's an epidemic now. It's an issue. It's a dependency across the board, not just you. Your employer wants to have an app. Your government wants to have an app. Your bank wants to have an app. Your doctor wants to have an app. Everybody wants to have an app. Even though I can tell you right now, we don't care about apps. 5, 6 of our cousins, I'll tell you maximum app you open per day is about 2 or 3 max. The rest is just sitting there, wasting, taking up energy on your phone, right? At the end of the day, your battery dies before 4 p.m. and then you're stuck. So I'll stop there for now, guys. Enjoy your day. And if you have any issues, let us know. Okay, just go into www.orukka.com. We're happy to talk to as many people as possible. We've launched 6 months ago. We're growing. So catch you in the next one. Join the revolution. Thank you.